I'm only one athletic trainer. I can't get to you all. Feelings of frustration. Another parent calling me about their son planning to play on Friday when he's not ready to play. Feelings of anger. When is the season over? I am so worn down. Feelings of being tired. I hate my job. This is too much. Feeling of being overwhelmed. I work so freaking hard and they bust me on the stupidest crap, this tedious stuff. Feeling of being overlooked. Brett, what? Being on edge. If you experience some of these emotions on a consistent basis in your job, you're fighting burnout. You're fighting burnout. I'm Brett Fisher. I'm happy to be here. Like Becca said, I am an athletic trainer. I've worked in all kinds of settings, been very fortunate to do that in the college and high school ranks. No way am I an expert to actually speak on this. I'm not a mental specialist like we'll hear next from Dr. Mark Strickland, but I am a soldier. And I've been fighting burnout for 38 years doing what we do. And as athletic trainers, no one knows better about the stresses of this. And even everybody in the medical field for now, even physical therapists, nurses, things like that, there's a lot of stress out there. So my goal today is what? Let's talk about burnout. What is it? Okay. What are some of the symptoms? What are some of the causes? All right. And we know a lot of these things, but what the heck can we do about it? What can we even do and challenge ourselves to even go about this? We really feel like this is an important time of the year, given what's going on in society, that we talk about these things. First thing I want to talk about is some of the causes of what we're going through. Long hours. I mean, a lot of us know this. As athletic trainers, I think we got back at 4 a.m. last week after a game, and you're back at it at 7 o'clock in the morning. It's long hours. So if you're in the healthcare profession now, it's long hours, okay? Poor salaries for athletic trainers, still there. As a healthcare professional, unfortunately, the salaries haven't caught up yet. In fact, it's kind of scary if you take the amount of hours that an athletic trainer works and divide it by the pay, it comes close to minimum wage for these expert people. So there's a lot of stress that comes with that financially to put all this time into it. 3, tough working conditions. You could be outside in the rain, the cold. You could be in a situation where you have very little equipment. You're dealing with super big people like we do at the Arizona Cardinals. Those are tough conditions, and you do it day in and day out. It takes a toll. So these are all causes that can go at us. Obviously, we're in a giving profession. We're always giving out energy. We're always treating other people's problems, all right? Which is what we like to do, but it's also a cause of why we may have a lot more stress in our lives. 5, politics on the job. We all have them, right? But really, an athletic trainer has a unique job. They might have an AD, coaches, they have the parents. There's multiple things that come your way that you have to deal with as a healthcare professional in sports medicine. And you need to recognize that those are unique jobs. Some jobs you have one boss. For a lot of athletic trainers, you have multiple people you have to deal with and really answer to. 6, as athletic trainers, we have poor family and friends social time. Because our time's so short, we seem to we get less and less time with our friends. We don't make time for those things. And it happens because of our time of what we're doing. Number 7, insufficient staffing is a very big problem for athletic trainers. Any really a healthcare professional we're looking at now with COVID, people are being just stressed out because they have too many patients for the healthcare professionals. And notice, obviously, the last one, COVID. We know all well that the athletic trainer has so many responsibilities, and now even more. The athletic trainers at the Arizona Cardinals do an amazing job. They do contract tracing on the plane, coming off the plane, everybody has trackers and all the testing that goes on. Those are all extra things that they have to do that adds to stress in their lives. And it's a lot. It's a lot. And it came all at once. So what is burnout? It describes psychologically as emotional exhaustion. Basically, you're on empty. You got nothing to give. We see now a depersonalization of the athlete, almost like the athletic trainer becomes callous toward life. And before you know it, you came in this profession wanting to help everybody. And all of a sudden now you're like, oh, I don't feel anything anymore. It's kind of a scary thing. And number three, I've seen this, is that people have a decreased perception of their accomplishments. They lose confidence in themselves because they're so busy, they can't get to them to do all the things they want to do. And before you know it, their outcomes are not the way they want to be. And before you know it, they're going, this isn't going to work. And it's like this, almost like this hopelessness feeling that occurs for a lot of athletic trainers. So all this leads to what? Decrease in work quality, increase in substance abuse, drinking, drugs, things like that we're seeing now. Three is an increase in depression symptoms. And this is kind of the eye opener for me that Dr. Strickland really taught me over the years. It's not just feeling sad or feeling those emotions, but changes in sleep, changes in eating, too much, too little, emotional eating. Feeling of hopelessness is obviously one of them. Losing interest in the things that you'd like to do in your life. All of a sudden, that you used to like to do that, you're like, I don't want to do that anymore. Okay. And number three is getting pleasure from even just doing our daily work as an athletic trainer. And the things we used to love to do is all of a sudden now a burden. And that's kind of the worst feeling, getting up early in the morning and having to go somewhere and go, I don't want to be here. So now that I depressed you all, it made you feel horrible. All right. What can we do? I mean, this sounds really depressing. And what, like, how are you going to change my job? I have my hours. How are you going to change things? Man, today, I just want to hear and just say, give some suggestions, some strategies, kind of fight through this now. I mean, first, you got to sit down and back up and really take a good look at your life. Identify and modify these stresses we just talked about. Really sit down in your time and say, okay, what is going on? What are these things we're talking about today? And take a real good inventory and find out what you got going on. All right. A great quote, which I want to start with, and I put it on the Instagram too, is life is 10% of what happens to you, but 90% of how you react to it. Life is 10% of what happens to you, but 90% on how you react to it. And I think once we get that perspective, you understand, like, I can do this. I can get this now, because when we're in the midst of it, it don't feel like 10%, right? It feels like the whole world's coming down. So one of the first things we need to do is, first of all, are you in the right profession? Because maybe you're not. Maybe you're not. Maybe you should not be an athletic trainer or a physical therapist or a nurse, whatever you may do, just because it's not the right setting for you. So what's required of an athletic trainer? And it's really a unique job. It's so special in so many ways. You have to deal with so many types of personalities. As far as athletes, that's a wide spectrum. We talk about it all the time in the training room. But you have your ADs, you have your assistant ADs, you have travel secretaries, you have coaches, parents, you have everybody you got to deal with. And if you're a person that doesn't like dealing with multiple personalities, you're going to struggle. You're going to really struggle. You got to get over things quickly and stay focused on the job. You just can't take yourself so seriously. But things are going to happen so fast. You can't linger on, and you can't stay on it because something else may be coming on, the next injury in the game. You have to be able to move on in your life. Obviously, being organized. Think about an athletic trainer. They're there before practice, prepping out, taping, rehab, making sure there's enough water, temperature gauge, phone calls coming in, getting everybody ready, get on the field, take care of the players on the practice field, afterwards clean up, treatment. There's a million things going on at once. And if you're not an organized person, it's straight chaos. And chaos creates stress. 4, you got to be able to laugh. You got to have moments on the sidelines, in the training room, where you have fun. And if you don't have fun what you're doing, it's you hate life. And so that's what's an important thing. I really believe you got to love sports if you're going to be doing sports. You get to love it, because there's times you're sitting out there going, what the hell am I doing? It's cold and it's raining, but you love what you're doing. You know, you love healthcare. And I think one other one I want to add to this is adding, you have to be able to communicate to people and set expectations to them. For example, especially in the high school setting, you have a player and the player's hurt, and you know that it's like a 4-week injury, but yet the parent wants them to play this Friday. You have to be able to sit down to them and say, no, you're actually jeopardizing your son or daughter's, health of doing that. You have to have the confidence in yourself and the ability to communicate these things to somebody and say, no, I'm not going to come to this pressure. I'm going to go ahead and tell you what I really, really think is going to happen, and believe in what you're saying. So the bottom line is this. If you want to get and fight burnout, it's a fight. but it's not a fight one day and I think about it and go on. No, it's a daily fight. You have to have strategies each and every day to fight this, okay? I like this word here. You have to be deliberate. Deliberately attack those areas in your life that you need to modify to make yourself feel like you're enjoying what you're doing, all right? Because if you don't, guess what happens? You can't give what you don't have, okay? If you have nothing in the tank, you can't give it. So that's why it's such an important thing to do. So what are some of these strategies? Number one, like Pablo Picasso said, without great solitudes, no serious work is possible. You have to get quality personal time. I don't care how you get it. You got to figure it out somehow, some way. If you need to go to bed earlier so you can go and get up earlier, stay up later to do this time, however it works in your life, you have to get personal time. Some people like to journal. I don't. I'm not a great writer, so I don't journal, but some people write and they're be able to express themselves in words much easier. And it's really an outlet. Meditation, and Mark is an expert as far as explaining a lot of these, but there's so many ways of meditating, to going from mindful meditation of certain things you want to think about to breathing techniques, guided imagery meditation, things like that can really set your day on the right path. Okay. 5, pray, listen, and talk to God. It works. It works. 6, read things that uplift you, encourage you, things that make you feel better. Get things that go away from your day-to-day life. And 7, you have to carve out time about thinking. Einstein did this, Newton did this, Bill Gates did this. And what they did is said, these times are unnegotiable. The phone's off, the TV's off, and they just thought. For me personally, it's our airplane runs. Our airplane has no Wi-Fi, and actually everybody complains, but I love it because no one can get a hold of me. And I put my headphones on, or I just sit there and lay there, and I can just think. And for me, it's that time, or early in the morning for me, is time when I think. But find what time works for you, and just get some think time. Just, it doesn't be long, but just think about things, and it kind of gives you a different perspective of what you're looking at. Okay. This right here is such an important thing. Is really having. It's hard as athletic trainers to have a lot of friends because we don't have a lot of time. Okay, I hate to say that. Like really true good friends are going to stick by you and understand you can't be there all the time. But you got to kick it with your homies. You got to be yourself and let loose and have fun. Okay, it's such an important thing to have that in your life and with your family and have those moments. But you have to plan for them. It just doesn't just happen. You got to be deliberate in being that time with your friends and your family. You'll enjoy life more. Mentor is such an important thing. Looking back at my career, I'm so blessed to have people who came into my life and they're mentors. For example, like my mom, I love her to death. Hope she's not watching. But like, you're tired, just tell them you don't want to go in today. Take a day off. You've worked every day since July 21st. Mom, I can't do that. It's not my job. So my point is, like, when you have mentors, make sure they know your environment and give you good advice. They've been there. They can say that. Now, with that said, you might have a mentor who's more of a business mentor, doesn't really totally understand athletic training, but they can give you some real good business advice. You can have people who are in athletic training really give you some good technical advice. Hey, on this ACL at 3 weeks, look for this and look for that. That's great. Or you may have a person who's in your life on how do I handle this coach who is like the biggest jerk in the world? How do I handle him? And there's people who went ahead of us to say, I think you can kind of try and do this and this and this. It's so important to establish certain people on your cell phone that you could dial up and say, hey, you got 5 minutes to talk to me? This is what's going on. Can you give me some perspective? And that's been a huge thing for me because we all can't know it all, but we know people in our lives who have done things, who've been successful. Utilize them and start building your mentors, your people in your dials, okay? Keep building those up. Another thing, obviously, take care of yourself. I know it sounds so simple, but like sleep, diet, exercise, even things like yoga and massage, whenever you get a chance, take it. Find those moments when you can do those things for yourself because it is critically important. How you feel has a lot to do as how you think and do things, okay? So for example, for sleep, obviously, all the research has been showing you gotta be around 8 hours, give or take. You gotta get 8 hours, okay? Don't overstimulate before bedtime. Like video games, they say aren't the best thing because it gets you kind of going. That's one of the things. Read, listen, music before you go and get relaxed. Whatever floats your boat. For me, I like Pawn Stars before I go to bed or travel TV shows. I don't know, they work for me. I just love travel shows where I can just kind of get my mind just kind of drift off. And for my wife and I, we have a thing where after like 8 o'clock, we don't really discuss business or things that are kind of getting us really going if we can. We try to do that before, and everything afterwards is kind of just like letting ourselves go down and just get ready to go and sleep. But a dark, cool area to sleep. I know it sounds simple, but it does enhance sleeping quality. Research has shown. So make your room dark, okay, as much as you can. Make it cool and get rest. Now, diet, obviously, for an athletic trainer, um, this is tough because of our job. A lot of times we don't have access to places, okay? And fast food places are usually the option sometimes for athletic trainers because we're on the run. But this is where our job is so special. We have to have special planning. You got to plan for your diet. You got to plan for your meals. You got to bring snacks. You got to do things that's going to really enhance your life and give you energy. You have to plan ahead on your diet, especially as an athletic trainer. And it's hard when you're traveling in a bus, you're doing things. Sometimes you don't have a whole lot of options to choose from, but you got to make the best of it and prepare for those times where you put certain things in your bag just to get you by. Okay. Obviously, exercise. They go, when can I find the time? Well, the good thing is athletic trainers, guess where we work at? Usually in an athletic setting. So you can have a gym, maybe some kind of weights. We usually have some kind of field. We can do something. We can be creative. We have the equipment, so to speak, to take care of ourselves. We have to find a time to do that. But when can I do that? For some of us, it's early in the morning. Before everything starts, you get it out of the way. For some of us, it's when players go to team meetings. Find those 20 minutes to an hour, they go to team meeting. And for some, maybe it's after work. For me, I can't do that. I'm too dead tired, and I would probably skip it. So I try and get mine in the morning. Everyone's different, but you got to find time for yourself, 20 minutes to an hour, 3 times a week. If you want to survive in this business, you've got to take care of yourself. You got to exercise at some point in time, because if you don't, it's going to catch up to you. Okay. Obviously, we mentioned this before, time management. You got to be deliberate, and it's everything. It's not just our work week. It's also our social calendar. It's our personal calendar. It's our meal plans. Everything like that is such an important thing to do. For me, stress is when I am late. So my wife will tell you, I get to airports 2 hours in advance. For those of the Cardinals here, I'm at the first one on the airplane. I'm usually laying down, going to sleep, or just hanging out. I hate to be late. It's stressful for me. So, but I always say plan ahead, because things could happen, and give yourself that leadway to do that. But like I said, as an ATC, we have a special job. So it takes special preparation to get us to last a long time in our career. This to me is one of the biggest things now, is take time to establish your priorities. What's a priority? Who and what are the most important things in your life? Think about that. Who are the most important people in your life? What's the most important thing? Sit down and look at it. A great book for me was a book called Essentialism by Greg McNown. And he had a quote which kind of sums the book up in a lot of ways. He said, distinguishing the vital few from the trivial many. I read it again. He said, distinguish the vital few from the trivial many. And when you start doing that, you start figuring out what's really, really important here and what's not important, okay? Because when you really understand what's really important in your life, you start getting these priorities in your life set that are really, really important. So that takes to my next point, our day-to-day life. Okay, now I have my priorities. This is important, that's not so important. But something small happens in the training room and it just pisses you off. What do you do? And there was a great analogy where there's a clear lake, a clear pond, and you throw a rock on the pond, and what happens? You get the ripple effect, right? And everything's on the surface is really going, and they can go for a long time. If you ever watch it, it can go for a long, long time. But that rock, if you're 4 feet deep, the water never changed. It stayed the same. It sounds crazy, but in my mind, when things get like that, I go deep, go deep. Things on the surface are always crazy, but they're not vital. The things deeper. I guess I say to myself, don't be shallow, Brett. Go deep in life. And when those things happen, when they really irritate you, go, at the end of the day, how important was that? Was I on top of the surface where things were kind of crazy? Or was I deep where it's kind of calm, quiet, going, yeah, it wasn't that important. You know what I mean? And it's a good reminder for me. It's a visual reminder for me when things get crazy. How important was that? And it just gives me a perspective. I think the other thing too, which is important, is learning to say no. For example, there's times where I know in training camp, we had treatments from 8 o'clock to noon. And it was during training camp, and we stay away for a while, don't see our families. And a player walks in at 1 till 12, who's usually single. Hey, I need to get treated. And I've walked out. Where you going? I go, I'm going home and see my family and my dogs. I need treatment. Well, guess what? I'm not going to treat you. I was here all day. Okay. When you start giving in on those things, that's taken away from you because people will steal your time. He had his opportunity. He lost it. But if you keep giving yourself up, you'll burn yourself out. And you have to establish that. They may get pissed off. I had a guy this week do it to me. Are you going to leave? Yeah, I'm going to leave. I'll be here all day. But guess what? He came early the next day because he knew I was going to leave. He knew I wasn't playing that. But I have to protect myself because at the end of the day, we want to have a career doing this. We don't want to burn out. People will burn you out if you let them. But you have to establish what is important in your life. All right, hobbies. Pick one, do one, have it. Whatever floats your boat, you need to turn your brain off at some point in time. Just get out there and do that. Find something, okay? I know it sounds simple, but say, yeah, I want to learn the guitar. I want to do this. Just do that. Go out and do it. It's such a great way of just mentally taking your brain off of things for a little while. And when you come back to the problem, it's never quite as bad as it was the first time. The other thing too, I think for ourselves as athletic trainers, we're always expected to know all the answers. All right. And it's so important to do positive self-talk. What does that mean? It means that sometimes you just got to motivate yourself. There's no one's going to be saying, hey man, keep going. You're doing a great job. You usually don't get that. So you got to talk to yourself. The Bible says, as a man thinks, so he goes. Joyce Meyer said, you can't have a positive life with a negative mind. Kind of makes sense, right? But even that, how you talk about yourself, what you say about yourself, if you speak negative about negative things, you start becoming negative. The more you speak positive about things, your life, it gets inside of you and it brings you up. So I think it's such an important thing to understand, like how we speak really determines how we're going to react. So speaking, you know people like who's like, oh my God, this guy or lady's so negative, and they want to bring you down, right? But you can't allow that. You got to speak to yourself and encourage yourself and believe in yourself as you go through your day. Communicate. And I think this is an important part because it kind of goes back with the politics. Develop proper communication channels. Like for me, if someone really wants to get a hold of me and they email me, first thing I do is don't email me because I may not read that till about 7 o'clock at night. If you want me, call me, text me. That's me. There's certain people go, oh no, don't you ever call me. I want you to email me. That's fine. But let me know how you roll. Because the better you can communicate with certain people, some just want it one-on-one. That's fine. But learn how people communicate in your job. Your coaches, your athletic directors, how they do it. Learn how they communicate best. It's going to make your job so much easier. All right. The other thing too, I think for me, I had to communicate to my family when I got home from work, when the kids were small and everything, they came and I wasn't the nicest person for the first 5 minutes. Correct? My wife's here. But I said, just give me 5. When I get home, just give me 5 minutes to kind of decompress. I just need that 5 to kind of let it go. We live further away now, so I have that time in the car, but before I lived really close. And I had to communicate that to them, like, if after 5 minutes, I'm going to be okay. But let people know what you need. Don't be afraid to say, I need these things from you, okay? Obviously, talking about boundaries again, to me, super, super important. Stick to your treatment times. I think for athletic trainers, sitting down with the coaches and the athletic directors and your bosses before the season occurs, what times are you going to cover and what times are you not going to cover? Like, oh, you weren't at our night practice? No, I told you I'm not going to be there past 6 o'clock. Whatever you guys decide, stick to it. Because I think right now, I think Becca told me junior colleges now maybe have to deal with not only their spring sports, but their fall sports that were missed by COVID. Now the trainers got expected to cover that. Oh my gosh, that's 2 seasons into one. What's going to happen to those trainers mentally, psychologically, emotionally? These are all things that came their way. We didn't expect COVID to happen, but still, now that it happened, Have those conversations in the beginning of the season with your people who are above you, saying, hey, these are the times that are required. This is what's going on. I went the wrong way. Keep learning. Keep going to Con Ed. Con Ed will continue to have more wisdom. You'll have ability to understand things more. You'll have less frustration. Don't ever stop learning. No one knows it all, okay? Get some really good Instagram posts. They're quick and they just kind of provoke thought. And it's kind of nice to do that. We're professionals. We always want to get better. And I think it's fun for us to learn new things that are really effective. And then the athlete comes back and goes, wow, that really helped me. That makes us feel good. So use those things. Use your drive time to listen to podcasts, use things that are going to kind of uplift you, and use those times to kind of support yourself mentally and physically. Those are the times we need those helps, okay? One of the mentors in my life was an old chiropractor. He pulled me aside when I was younger. He said, until you learn this, you're going to struggle. And he said, it's an 80-10-10 rule. I said, all right, what's the 80-10-10 rule? He said, 80% of people, you're going to get better. 10%, you'll kind of help. And there's going to be 10% of people that you deal with, you'll never get them better. Learn to accept that. So it sounds kind of like, that's kind of a negative, but it's actually real. Because there's a lot of people come in and I go, I don't think I can help you, but I can refer you to somebody who maybe can. And that still makes me feel better. I think as athletic trainers, we tend to have this savior complex. We have to be the knowledge of all and save everybody. That's not our job. Our job is to do the best we can. If we can't help them, maybe somebody else can, but that's okay because we're not designed to be the 100% all the time. Don't put that on yourself. It's unrealistic. Nobody can treat everyone and get everyone better. That's why we're all different. We have different skills and different things. So don't ever put yourself in that box. And that kind of gave me a perspective, like took the pressure off me. Like, okay, I don't have to be perfect. I'm going to try hard, but I'm not going to cure everybody. As athletic trainers, you have to compartmentalize. You can't let one thing lead into the other, okay? Because when you have multiple problems, not if, but when, it's going to happen. There's going to be multiple things going on at the same time. How do you deal with it? It really gets back to the same thing. What's really vital, okay? And what's trivial? I'll never forget, I was at a practice. I won't mention the coach's name. He's pretty famous. And my friend was the head athletic trainer. And at the same time, his pencil broke on his pad as he's coaching. He was doing some notes, and a player went down. And he's screaming at the trainer, get my pencil, right? And the trainer is looking at him, and there's a guy on the ground rolling in pain. Now, he had to make a decision. This guy was a pretty famous coach. He did the right thing, took care of the player. But you have to understand what's vital, what's not vital, because you're going to get pressures from all around, okay? And it's a skill. It's definitely a skill to compartmentalize. It's easy to let one thing flow into the next, but you have to understand the next athlete comes your way had nothing to do with that situation. And you got to somehow put a wall up and say, all right, I got you. I'm going to deal with you. I'll deal with that later. It's hard. It takes time, but the more you do that, the less stress you'll have. I'm going to leave you with this. You got to fight. You got to fight every day. It's an everyday fight, okay? We're givers. It's fulfilling. It changes lives. But we have to be deliberate in what we do each and every day. Be a planner. Deliberately do things that are going to build you up inside, okay? Because you know why? We love what we do. Our profession is worth fighting for, all right? So that's, for me, these really are some things that I just practically that I've done in my life. I've been fortunate to have people kind of help me with this. And I got to 38 years, still married. I'm still mentally here, I think. So it's worked so far.